Today, we're diving into the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM. But forget what you might have heard about it being just another environmental policy. We're going to look at it for what it really is to anyone in global trade, a massive, game-changing shift in the pure economics of procurement. This is something that's about to change every sourcing decision you make.
Just let that sink in for a second. For years, the name of the game in procurement has been mastering the costs you can see, the ones on the invoice. But CBAM brings a totally new kind of cost to the table. It's an invisible cost, tied directly to your supplier's carbon emissions, and it's about to become very, very visible on your bottom line.
So to really understand just how much of a disruption this is, let's take a quick look back. Let's remind ourselves of the world we all know, the traditional way of doing things, before this new carbon rule turned everything upside down.
For decades, this was it. This was our entire world, right? Your total cost of ownership, your TCO, it was a pretty simple calculation. You had the price you negotiated for the product, you had your standard import taxes, and you had the cost of shipping. Decisions were made based on these numbers. The lowest total cost landed at your door won the business. Simple, clean, done.
Well, that playbook is now officially obsolete. You can pretty much tear it up, because the EU's new rule, CBAM, has thrown a brand new and very powerful variable into the mix, and it's forcing all of us to rethink, well, everything.
So what is CBAM in plain English, for those of us in procurement? Think of it as a new kind of tariff. But this one isn't based on the value of the goods or what they are. Nope, it's based on how much carbon dioxide was pumped into the air while making them. This is the first time that carbon isn't just a talking point in a sustainability report, it's a hard commercial cost. And this right here, this is the fundamental shift. We're moving from a world of just sourcing for the lowest price to a whole new reality of sourcing for price plus emissions. The supplier who's cheapest at the factory gate might end up being the most expensive by the time their products actually land in Europe. And what that means for you is that your entire list of criteria for picking a supplier just got rewritten.
Okay, so what does this actually look like on paper? How does this new cost really get baked into your financial models? Let's break it down.
Here we are back at our landed cost table, but with the new reality added in. Right below all your traditional costs, you now have to plug in 3 new lines. First, the embedded carbon cost. That's the tariff itself. Then you've got the verification cost, because somebody has to audit and sign off on your supplier's data. And finally, don't forget the compliance admin cost, the internal hours your own team has to spend managing this whole new headache. Your TCO model just got a whole lot more complicated. Now, this isn't just some theory, this is happening right now, and it's hitting major export economies hard. We're going to take a look at some real-world examples from key sectors in India to see how this is actually playing out for procurement teams on the ground.
First up, steel. India is a major steel exporter to Europe, and a lot of that steel is made using carbon-heavy blast furnaces. They are on the absolute front line of this change.
So, if you're sourcing steel, your job just changed overnight. You can't just compare prices anymore. You now have to benchmark suppliers based on their emissions data. This puts huge pressure on you to find partners who are actually investing in things like green steel. And getting that carbon data from them, it's not a nice-to-have anymore, it's a non-negotiable ticket to play.
The big lesson here is simple, but it's really profound. A supplier's carbon efficiency is no longer just some metric for the annual ESG report. It is now a powerful commercial differentiator that hits your bottom line directly.
Okay, next, let's talk about aluminum. This is an industry that uses a mind-boggling amount of energy. And that means the source of that energy just became a critical procurement issue.
This is where procurement has to start digging deeper. You now need to be asking your aluminum supplier, hey, are you running on coal-fired power or are you using renewables? Because their upstream decision directly impacts your downstream CBAM cost. This means you have to start writing emissions disclosure right into your contracts and formally linking your supplier's performance to their carbon footprint.
So, the lesson for anyone buying aluminum is that you have to look past your immediate supplier. Their sourcing decisions are now your financial problem. You've got to have visibility much, much deeper into their value chain.
All right, now for cement. This is one of the most carbon-intensive industries on the planet. For buyers in this space, the CBAM risk is just enormous, and the demands being placed on suppliers are getting intense, fast.
You know, sourcing cement for the EU market now requires a totally different set of skills. You almost have to be a technical expert assessing a supplier's kiln technology. You have to demand super detailed process-based audits of their emissions, not just generic industry averages. This basically forces you to sit down and create long-term decarbonization plans with your suppliers.
And this is a massive strategic shift. Procurement is no longer about just getting the best price for next quarter's supply. CBAM is forcing you into long-term strategic planning, making you place bets on suppliers who have a real, credible plan to lower their carbon footprint for years to come.
And for our last case study, let's look at chemicals. We're talking about incredibly complex production processes. And in this world, the name of the game is one thing: data. Precise, auditable, and traceable data. For anyone buying chemicals, you're now in the data business. It's that simple. You need suppliers who can trace every single input and give you audit-ready carbon data for their products. Your sourcing decision might not even be based on the best price anymore, but on which supplier has the best data governance and the highest quality reporting.
The takeaway here is huge. Data integrity is now a core procurement function. Managing the flow of accurate carbon data from your suppliers is now just as critical as managing the flow of the actual physical goods.
Okay, so we've seen the problem, and we've seen the impact across different sectors. The big question now is, what do you actually do about it? Let's switch gears and talk about the actionable strategies that smart procurement teams are putting into place right now. Here it is, your new playbook. Number 1. Carbon metrics have to become a formal part of your supplier scorecards, period. 2. Get on the phone with your legal team because you need to update contracts with clauses that demand emissions reporting. 3. You have to actively seek out and prioritize suppliers who can prove they have lower carbon processes. And 4, maybe the most important, procurement cannot do this in a silo. You have to be completely aligned with your sustainability and finance teams. This is a team sport.
And that really is the bottom line. CBAM has completely redrawn the map for global sourcing. Your success isn't just about hunting down the best price anymore. It now depends on how well you can see your supply chain's carbon footprint, how capable your suppliers are of changing, and how good you are at negotiating these new, complex commercial terms. The world of procurement has changed, and the cost of carbon is now, officially, the new cost of sourcing.